All right, and we're back. So, yeah, well, from everything I just said, I don't know if you wanted to comment on that.
I don't know anything about that drug lord,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
uh
I guess like, well, you know how when there's like a leader of a drug ring or whatever, and they catch him, like basically the drug ring breaks into little factions and then they fight amongst each other.
mhm.
Um, and that's basically what happens nowadays whenever they catch a leader, like it breaks into little factions, and that's why we have like the war even among them, because they're all fighting each other for, for control, because they all want to be like the leader. So basically what this guy did in the, I think it was in the 80s, the 70s and the 80s, he like controlled everything. So everything was like under his command, and that's when, like he obviously he would make deals with the government and whatever, but like everything was like peaceful in a way, because like violence was kept at a minimum, because he was like the boss. He was like the head. They even called him like the boss of bosses. And yeah, like he kept, well, he tried to keep everybody like on check, like kind of like an authoritarian. Actually, he was very authoritative. Well, he was very business like. That was more of his thing. He saw it as a business. He even went to college for business school or something like that. So that was kind of like his thing, to keep to manage to run everything like a business. Like they were just employees, and uh accounting and things that needed to be done like that. But his style, I guess, was kind of like, like a Porfirio Diaz, like an authoritarian would, not really looking at it as like I'm gonna be the boss, but just looking at it as a pragmatic way, like
Uh-huh.
this is what needs to be done, and that's just it, like we need to pay the government, we got to pay the government, we need to do this, we, not being like evil or whatever. um but yeah, that's kind of what he did. And as soon as they caught him, I think they caught him in the 90, like in the year 90 or 89 or 91, something like that. As soon as they caught him, well, that's when things started dividing up, and they started fighting amongst themselves. And that's kind of like the what happens, and that's kind of what happens in a country too, because I was checking out this video about Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, I guess, was under a monarchy in the early 1900s until like after World War I, I think. They like there was a rebellion. There was like a group that started a revolution in Afghanistan, and they overthrew the monarchy, and then they established themselves in power. And like 5 years after that, there was another revolution. And then kind of like what happened in Mexico during the revolution, where like Porfirio Diaz in, I think, 1910, 1911, he was like, you want me out? I'm out.
On.
And he left to France. That's where he died, right? And what happened in Mexico for the next 20 years until what would become El PRI would establish themselves, and create an oligarchy for like 80 years or whatever, how many, 60 years they were
They're
in
still in
power.
power, man.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. The oligarchy. Yeah, that's kind of what, like, yeah, the oligarchies are the new authoritarian systems. Yeah, and that's what they. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, how do you go from like a totally rebellious system, like for example, I think in Afghanistan the Taliban are funded by the Saudi Arabians.
The
So
Russians.
yeah, and the Russians, so they're not even really from there. And there's this like thing also that talks about the geography from Mexico and Afghanistan is very similar, because it's mountainous, it's really rocky. And they say that makes it harder for the government to centralize the power, around the whole country. So what you have is, you don't have easy access from one like locality or city to the other. And basically like local groups rule the road, and it makes it harder for the country to basically like become stabilized, like
I mean, that's why
economically.
we had governors, but
Ah, right. Yeah, they're not doing shit. Yeah. But the perfect system, I think, is one that also needs to take into account conceptual cultural ideas. Because, for example, there was this there was this idea that, like, if you could travel back to the medieval ages or the Middle Ages, and you would tell people like, hey, you know what, hell doesn't exist, God doesn't exist, the devil doesn't exist, they were gonna, like, burn you like a witch, basically, right? Because they believed in it so hard that it wasn't even an act of faith. It was just an act of like, that's just how things were. And I mean, they were fanatical, but at the same time, because, for example, you look at systems like, like the capitalists, like the US, and what type of problems do they have? They have the type of problems where they say, okay, yeah, like competition, everybody's competing, but hey, not everybody. There are some people that are isolated, that don't want to compete. Basically, that's where that unfair idea comes from, I think, where they say, you know what, I don't want to compete. I just want to, be equal to everybody and get the same as everybody. When you have these hyper competitive, like, businessmen, like type A personality sharks that are just like, more, and they're good at it, so that's all right, that's cool. But what about the people that aren't good at it or don't want to do that? It's not fair to them. They get alienated. They do mass shootings in schools. They become depressed, anxious. So what about them? And what I think you need is like a balance between the concepts. A lot of these concepts, they call them like family values, or the family as we know it. But, like, look at, for example, India, or the family system in, like, Russia and China, where, like, all of them live together in the family, and they don't really have, like, India doesn't have, or the Middle East doesn't have problems of, like, anxiety or atheists or people, wanting to shoot up schools because they're depressed, because they have the family. I think in India you can't find beggars or bums in the street because the family takes care of everybody. So obviously you're very restricted. You don't have any freedom. You, like, the grandfather tells you and tells your sons what they're going to be, but you don't have these problems that they do in the United States, for example, or in the Western countries, like Europe and possibly even like Mexico. So yeah, I think you need a balance between freedom and control, but you also need a balance between, like, the ideals that you live by. Like, nowadays we don't have any ideals, because, like, Christianity, or the Christian system out the window, religion out the window, the government out the window. Like, nobody believes, in a higher something. So we're abandoned, basically. And a good political system, I'm not saying that the government's responsibility to give these cultural things, but a good political system and economic system, I think, has a lot of these concepts to hang on to, because humans, I think, need to believe in order for us as individuals to also be, like, stable, and not go all crazy.
you mentioned like family values and they don't believe in anything. And well, yes, that that's something that I don't know who mentioned it. Was it you or me? Like
Uh,
right now, like society has this very human centered, like individualistic way of living, you know?
yeah,
So for example, that thing like you need to emancipate from your family. Don't let the government tell you what to do. And mhm, they
yeah,
they're messing with everything. And
yeah,
that you mentioned that maybe is not a responsibility of the government. I don't know you, but when I was in elementary school, I used to have some books about ethic and and civil law. Well, I mean for kids, but
yeah,
like how to live in society. And
Mm.
in time, those books were lost. I mean,
Uh,
now working as a teacher, I can see that they don't teach those things anymore. And
ethics.
and it is more like center on yourself. How do you feel? What do you feel? And I don't know, that they're trying to manipulate like young minds. I mean, like always, but in this case, is in for bad. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
for chaos.
yes. I mean, like be be yourself and don't let anyone to impose otherwise. Like you can
Uh,
step on the rights of others, but when somebody step on your rights, you need to make a fuss. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
So yes, I mean, we cannot depend on the government, but I mean, there must be like as you said, a higher authority or a higher figure. I don't know. Maybe not religion, maybe not the government, but I don't know, somebody that like put them back in line. Like, hey, stop doing those things.
right. Yeah, beliefs. Yeah, because I think humans want to believe. I mean, if you take like I think Marilyn Manson, they asked him like about the Columbine shooters in 1999, like what would you have said to them? And he was just like, I would have listened to them, right? And eventually I think what they would have told him was like, anarchism, like there's no meaning to life. I mean, because I think beliefs ultimately give you meaning. And like I was reading this book on Jordan Peterson, he says meaning is a call to action. So if you don't have meaning, you're not going to act. And belief gives you meaning, right? So you say he used an example of a little girl that gets slapped for touching the vase in the living room that's very expensive, and she says, well, she touches it, and first she needs to know what it is. So she feels that it's cold, she sees the color, and then she gets slapped by the mom and she says, don't touch that. So now she knows what it means, that what, at least what, when mom's around, don't touch it. And if she touches it, she knows that that means a slap, or punishment or whatever. So we learn meaning from things, from society, right? But yeah, like you say, nowadays it's like there was this other historian, or there was this guy on YouTube, he was saying that he sees a future where Nietzsche is going to be like a god. And you know how he's famous for like deconstructing everything. and
Uh-huh.
and, and we're in that era, like where we're just, oh, that's upright, we'll put it sideways, and just deconstructing everything. Why is that upright when it could be sideways, when it could be down, when it and it's like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I guess it was cool at a moment when tyranny was, the rule, and that was the exception. But now that becomes the rule. Chaos, disorder becomes the rule. And that, I mean, that's not good, I think. Fucked up.
Weak people create hard times.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You seen that? And then it's just a cycle. Yeah, exactly. Then let's go to the third one. Why did Jesus Christ exist?
According to whom?
Right. Well, they say according to historians, because they even say
I
like,
mean,
yeah.
actually, like if you want to see it in a human scholar way, yes, there are a lot of historic accounts that say that he did existed. But for example, some time ago, I was like really into Islam and those things, and I was
Uh,
reading that according to Islamic texts, they also
uh,
believe in Jesus, believe in the Jesus and also in the Virgin Mary, but they don't believe
uh,
that he's the Son of God. They said that he is actually like a holy man and a prophet.
uh,
And they do believe that he was conceived by the grace of God and stuff, but it ain't God. And if you think
mm,
about it, they had this example with Our Father prayer,
uh,
that he's like, and also using the Catholic gospel and those things, that Jesus always refers to God as Father, but not as himself, because that's what Catholic says, right? That Jesus and God and
Uh,
the Holy Ghost are the same.
are the same. Yeah.
So according to other religions and other views, they say like, nah. I mean, he called it he Jesus called God Father as all people called him Father, not because he was actually his father and it was actually himself. So
Uh,
yeah, I had this idea that maybe those things about Catholicism, that Jesus is God. I mean, no, that is like another try to humanize, or more like to make humans divine. Um,
yeah.
yes, I
There's
mean,
a potential in there.
uh-huh, very narcissistic. I was thinking maybe like, yes, why did Jesus existed? Maybe as as a figure of redemption, because I think it is also linked to the idea of life after death. You know, that's why
Uh,
Christians in Catholicism, well, not Catholicism, at the beginning it was just Christianism. That's why it
uh,
striped, because I mean, ancient like religions were like, okay, you are here in the world, and when you die, that's it, that's over. Maybe
uh,
Egyptians and some other cultures like those, they had like a kind of a belief of afterlife, but it wasn't for everybody. It was for kings and priests and the higher class. But the rest of the people, I mean, like the commoners, it was like you live, you die, and that's it, that's the end. And when
mm.
Christians present this idea of, oh, when you die you go to heaven, so they were like, oh, I'm interested into this. So
Yeah, it's
that's
attractive.
why a lot of people start adopting that religion. But I mean, it lost its real meaning. I think that this man came, and if he really existed and told people about good things, it was that, like, it was a message of compassion and love, and and again also a kind of control, like, hey,
Mm.
you need to
Yeah,
respect the law of God. So
yeah,
it was like a sweet version of authoritism.
yeah. Like you need to behave.
Yes. Oh, behave. Yes. And 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 well, I mean, I was I was looking like there has been many figures like him, and another one that, I mean, it is quite different, but at the very essence they are kind of like the same, is the Buddha. You know, like they
Yeah.
said, they had the same, like the same work. They came to spread a message of peace and love, and to be at peace with yourself, and to prepare for the next life. Maybe they are not telling you that you will have like an afterlife and you will live in paradise, but it's more like you must live in peace. Live here
Yeah.
in peace and live after, when you die, to live in peace. So yes, I mean, I see him more like that, like a prophet, like a guru, like a guide. Hmm.
Yeah.
With that message that he wanted us like to behave and be at peace, right? I was thinking
Right.
about other kind of of cosmovisions. Yes, that's the name, cosmovision.
Yeah, I think like other ways to view the life or the
Yeah.
universe. Yeah.
Like, for example, Native Americans, that they didn't have like a figure of redemption, but they believed in a higher form that asked them to do that. Like, everything that you have here is land, and you need to take care of it, and you need to
Mm,
have like this harmony with nature and things, and also with other people.
right. Yeah, to behave. And I think that's important because yeah, the idea of death is unknown, right? You don't know what happens after death. So when you come and you say, "Hey, after you die, there's a bad place and a good place." And if you're
Uh-huh.
good, good place. If you're bad, bad place. That makes you like rethink your life, You're like, "Well, he could be lying, but also he could be telling the truth because you don't know what happens when you die, right? So yeah, that's I think it's interesting to think of Jesus. I mean, I have a hard time thinking of historical figures or just maybe it's a crazy idea I have of famous people or yeah, historically famous people. I think, well, first of all, I know that there's like many people behind the one person that gets shown, right? Like they say, oh, this was Gandhi and this is Abraham Lincoln or whatever. But behind those people, there were many people that were probably working with them to make them who they became. So Jesus lived supposedly like 2,000 years ago. And for me, I don't think there was one Jesus. I find it hard to believe because I mean, you think about those times and maybe there was one person that did that, but I don't think people would have remembered or people would have, carried the word. I think there were possibly like Jesuses in plural, like possibly many people that did what Jesus did, and then nowadays we just construct it into one person, like with the miracles, with the resurrection, with all these things. Um, and historically, I think that's how maybe he was put together, like pieced together, like, oh, this guy did this, this would be good, this guy did this. And yeah, I think he exists or existed because we as people need a figure of like redemption and of well-being. We need to
Uh-huh.
know that um that there's good, that we can be good, because before that time, I mean, people just did whatever the hell they wanted. They had no moral compass. And I think, I don't know if I was reading Nietzsche or somebody said something like along the lines of, if religion dies, because they say God is dead or whatever, if religion dies, it still succeeded, because even if people don't believe in God or whatever, like you still think twice before like harming someone or before stealing, or even if you steal and don't get caught, you still feel guilt, because what Jesus preached is so embedded in us that we can't just, say, oh, I don't believe in religion, therefore I don't believe in guilt, I can do whatever I want, like, no, it's like established in the legal system, with the Bible, like swear on the Bible. Our time is defined by the birth of Jesus. Even if you don't believe in Jesus, you still have to be at work at 8 or whatever time, So, like, yeah, Christianity or religion won already. Even if it's dead, it left. It's so like grounded into our, society that, yeah, like you can't get rid of all the things that it has changed. And I think it gives us order again. Yeah, it's a sign of order also in within, like, among all the chaos that we're in. So yeah, it was necessary, at least for the collective unconscious. It was necessary for the people to believe in something like that.
You mentioned there were many figures. I still think that it was because it was imposed by the people who won, aka the
uh,
Romans. Because if you think about it, every society or every religion or cult or whatever, they have a figure like that. For example, here in Mexico, and if with the Aztecs and those people, it was Quetzalcoatl, right? So there
yeah.
were like a bunch of mean gods and gods that demanded blood, and there was this one who didn't demanded blood, and it spread a message of redemption for humans.
Mm.
So yeah, and for example with Islam, that one, I mean, is still Jesus because they have the prophet Muhammad, but that one is like the last prophet and he brought the last part of the word of God. But the one prophet that talked about redemption and gave morals, it was actually Jesus.
Oh yeah, even in the Islamic religion.
Yes.
Mm.
That is super interesting because I thought like other people said like, oh, it's because Islam is the enemy of Christianism and they hate us. I mean, there are some like radical branches that they have their own weird, crazy, twisted ideas. But if you actually read the Quran and those texts, there are many of them that actually are like, yes, listen to Jesus. I mean, and
Mm.
they try to make it very clear, like he ain't God, but he is carrying
Uh-huh.
his word.
Mm. Yeah, like more practical, I guess, like more
Uh-huh.
realistic, you could say.
I don't know.
Right.
For the Jews, I don't remember like a figure like that. Maybe Moses, but I mean, he was also
Mm.
like, yes, if you don't obey God, you will die.
Uh, yeah, more radical,
Yes.
because that's from the Old Testament, right? They say
Uh-huh.
the God from the Old Testament was like evil, basically, or well, he was like bad or moody, something like that.
I was thinking about this other quote that they said, if God is truly all powerful, he ain't all good. But if God is all good, he ain't all powerful.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
And another thing, I don't know if it is my interpretation or they actually wanted to tell us that, but again, also in Islamic readings and teachings, it is like God doesn't care if you obey him or not. He just gave some laws and there they are. And if you don't follow them, I mean, he couldn't care less. And it is like, okay, you didn't follow them, like I mean, die and do whatever you need to do. And what if I follow them? Well, there is like a promise of a paradise and stuff, but it is not like, yes, you have been so good, so I will love you forever and you will have whatever you want. Mm, I
Mm,
mean, at the end, the message that I got from those books is like, I mean, God gave us some rules and he demanded us to follow them, but not because
yeah.
he promised us something or he loved us that much, because he's God and he was like, okay, there are some crazy rules, obey them.
Mm. So it's because we needed order also. We needed that
Again,
structure.
everything is revolving around this word order.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, because there I think it was also a reaction to evil, maybe, because ultimately what good tries to defeat is evil, no? It says, I'm gonna defeat evil with good, with love, with all of these expressions, which ironically, they say that they foment like the hippies or the boomer generation, where the hippie generation, they spread the word of love around, and that's also what generated like a lot of population. So they say that there's like something related with spreading love, the concept of love around, and then like that's related to love making, and that just results in population or overpopulation in reality with the reproduction and all those things. But yeah, that's interesting with Jesus. So let's go to the last question. Oh yeah, the last question is kind of like a predicting question. Like, what do you think is going to happen in the month of March, in the next couple of months, and in the next year? So this is like to see. It's just like a little fun thing.
What is gonna happen with whom? With the world? With
You can make, and it would be fun to check, like
if
next month or next
okay,
year if you were
if
right.
they were fulfilled.
Right.
Like I don't know. I think in this month, I think that maybe not many things are gonna happen. I think.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nothing big.
yes, but maybe in the next month, I don't know. For example, for us economically, I'm scared, Poncho.
What?
I was checking these things, that they said, oh, look at the super peso, like it's beating or it's
Oh
taking
yeah.
some ground against the dollar. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking ground against the dollar, but have you checked actually like the basic groceries? I mean, they
Mm.
said with 20 pesos you cannot get even a half a kilo of tortillas or huevo, man. So,
Uh,
so I don't
yeah.
know. Maybe in the next months, I think like there are gonna be some weird things about economy. And this
Okay.
this thing that they said like, oh, Tesla is gonna open a plant here in
Uh-huh.
Mexico. Yes, economy is gonna boom in here. I don't know, man. I think, I mean, not wish mean to people, but I think that that thing is gonna flop like really, really bad. And
Yeah.
for the next year, I think like we're gonna be worse. I mean, I think there will be water problems. I mean, everything is gonna raise in prices. Uh, Again, it is not like an apocalyptic vision of the world, or that I have like a pessimistic ideas, but I just
Uh-huh.
see reality, man. And I think like economically, we're gonna have really, really, really big problems. And as a
Mm.
society, that will affect, and I don't know, maybe I feel a little bit hopeful about it, because having this kind of economical problems, it will ground a lot of people. It will make them like think with their feet on earth, and they
Uh-huh.
will see like, for example, their messiah and those parties are not like the good thing they claim to be. And another kind of groups, I don't know, maybe yes, like those kind of groups that demand rights and they think they're different, they're going to see that there are actually more important problems to address. So
Mm.
maybe we are in the step of another revolution, the doorstep of another revolution.
Okay.
Maybe not like something like
Oh, I
in arms
understand.
or something like that, but maybe as a society, we will have to change our way of thinking, maybe.
Mm. Okay, and yeah, because it's like things are polarized right now, especially with the
A
president, right?
lot.
Some people
Yes.
are over here, some people over here, and when there's a lot of faith, and when you break people's faith, I mean, that's just like I read this like meme or something that said, eventually, what I earn doesn't pay what I need to pay, so eventually I'm not gonna work and I'm not gonna care, and that's like revolution. Yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I mean, a physical fight, I don't know, a military fight, but
uh,
social, yeah.
Yes, but I tell you, maybe in this month ain't gonna happen in like much. In the next months, probably a lot of things there will start like arise, and people will start seeing like there are like a lot of red flags, and maybe
Mm.
hopefully, I mean, actually next year is election year, right? 2024.
Oh yeah, 2024.
So
Mm.
maybe, I mean, in a very hopeful way, maybe there will be a social revolution and everybody will go on the same page like, hey, these guys are doing things wrong, so we need to go back. Well, maybe not go back, or we need to change.
Yeah.
Or maybe the problem is going to be like, there are a lot of monkeys with this idea like, yes, they are giving us money and food and shows, fierro pariente. And it was Grupo
Yeah.
Firme, right? That thing they gave us, like, it's a free
Yeah.
concert. I was like, damn, for real, people can be that stupid. And when you saw the pictures of the Zocalo, man, I was like, this is this is embarrassing. And
Yeah.
maybe in a very bad scenario, I mean, they will continue in power, and all these people that is depending on their on those miseries that they gave them, they're gonna be a
Mhm.
big problem. But I mean,
Mm.
I hope not. I hope they can awake and they can see that things are not right. Like,
Right.
what is the word? Assistentialism? Yes? Like giving,
Existentialism. Yeah.
no, like when the government gives you money for
Oh,
free.
they think that's like welfare checks, something like that.
Well, it's because there is this word that is asistencialismo, that
Ah,
government
system.
gives you money just for being poor or not having the resources to survive on your own.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, when people realize that these kind of things are bad, I mean,
Uh,
because right now, I mean, again, I'm not like an expert in economics, but I read and I just listen to the news, And I'm like, this is scary. Like money is running out on those things. And there will be a moment
Right.
that the government won't have any money to give. And people will be like, well, where's the money?
Okay.
And in
Yeah.
that moment is when they're going to realize that just extending their hand and receiving the money wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, because they're
So
conditioning them to do that.
maybe the big changes are coming next year.
Mm,
Hopefully as a social revolution, but if not, there will be hunger and other things.
dang.
Crime. I mean, because there are a lot of ninis that are depending on the government. And when the government has no more money to give, they're going to turn
Yeah,
into crime.
that's when the problems are gonna start.
And they're going to turn into crime. And right now, like they have these ideas like we need to protect every single life, even if that means
Oh
protecting
yeah.
like other kind of lives. Man, they're gonna have license to kill.
Mm, right. Dang, that's gonna suck. Let me just tell you my predictions because I think we only have like 2 minutes on this session. I think well, like you know how it's Women's Day, I guess, like tomorrow or the 9th. I think
Yes, in 2 days.
yeah, there's gonna be some riots. I think I predict some riots. In this month, maybe some celebrity scandals. I predict like a copyright scandal of creative sorts from somebody.
Because AI.
Yeah, maybe something like that. And something with Russia or the United States. I mean, I remember the pandemic started here in March of 2020, so March is a pretty weird month. And I mean, in relation to like the next couple of months, there's this artist, this rap artist, his name is NF. He's gonna drop his album in April, and I think he potentially could take his place in music or in hip hop because he's been pretty like underground. But I mean, he's there. He's like working with Apple Music, and he may become like known and famous, possibly, because Bad Bunny right now, like he took a break, and music really doesn't have anybody, so he has a shot. I think he may take it, and yeah, basically, I don't know, like the usual shit, like a natural disaster, something may happen at some concert, maybe some earthquakes or something like that before
Wait for
September or in
September.
September. Uh-huh. Right. Earthquake month, September in 6 months. Yeah, exactly. So I think we're gonna finish up right here because we have less than a minute. Um, but it was really nice talking to you again, Chava.
Yes, nice to see you again. Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. We'll prepare some more questions, or if people comment or anything on Facebook, I'll share it on YouTube and Facebook. And if people wanna say something, we'll take it into consideration and we'll like talk again, man, for sure.
All right.
All right. So yeah, we'll stay in contact and
Yes, for sure, man.
yeah, I'll upload this video probably today and yeah, we'll see each other again.
All right.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Have a night, man.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.